with us from ABC News to help explain it all to us. Good morning, Lana.
Good morning, McGraw. So the Obama administration has been opposed to this legislation from the very beginning. They say that it opens a Pandora's box of potential consequences for U.S. military personnel, U.S. diplomats stationed abroad, and the United States government as well, because as well-intentioned as this legislation may be, by allowing individuals to sue the government of Saudi Arabia, which is not designated as a state sponsor of terrorism, that other countries then could say, well, if the concept of sovereign immunity doesn't apply for folks in the United States, and you know what, it's not going to apply in either cases. And then that's what would open up these lawsuits to the United States government, which both the Obama administration and folks in the Bush administration have said could be potentially disastrous. Nonetheless, Congress looks like it is getting ready to do that override. Remember, it passed unanimously by a voice vote. So even though we have heard individuals who have said that they have problems perhaps with this bill, nobody has been willing to go on record in either the House or the Senate to really say we need to put the brakes on.
Lana, it's interesting that, or not surprising, that Republicans would be for this since Obama's against it, but he's lost the Democrats as well on this.
Pelosi has been very vocal about wanting to override the president's veto on this one. One of the major authors and advocates for this is very blue, Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York, and even his own former Secretary of State and Democratic nominee for president, Hillary Clinton, says that she would, in fact, let this become law. So he is not really getting the support that he needs from the Democrats. But this isn't really a partisan issue, because we've heard from security experts, international law experts, from both the conservative and liberal ends of the spectrum that all think that this is a bad idea.
Yeah, it's very popular, but as you say, when you look at it, it's a very bad idea because it might put our troops into some type of harm's way down the line. Lana, where, if the 9/11 families are allowed to sue Saudi Arabia, where do they sue them?
Well, there's a lot of the logistics that have to be figured out, honestly, because this would be unprecedented legislation, and so part of what could be potentially disastrous, the security experts say, is then by doing this, the victims of September 11th and their families won't in fact get justice because there isn't really a mechanism to hold to have these court proceedings, and then it would still negatively impact both our national security by hurting our relationship with the government of Saudi Arabia, which has been very opposed to this. They've actually threatened to pull billions of dollars out of the U.S. economy as a result if this became, in fact, law. But as well as removing this principle of sovereign immunity from international law, and then fundamentally not getting any justice, not getting any funds or apologies even for these families of survivors of 9/11.
Yeah, Lana, last question for you. I know this sort of stems in part of the secret 28 pages from that report that they did now release, right? They did release those 28 pages to the public, did they not?
Well, part of the problem is that the entire 9/11 report, and in particular the 28 pages, which we spent a lot of time discussing, have been heavily redacted. And so even though there is still no determination that the government of Saudi Arabia had in fact sponsored the terrorism, even though so many of the hijackers, almost all of them, were Saudi nationals, that's different from saying that the government itself was behind it. But for many people, looking at those redacted passages from the 9/11 report, they believe that there are still implications in there that go to a higher level of government involvement.
Lana Zak, great stuff as always. Thanks for getting up early this morning with us. ABC News correspondent Lana Zak at the White House. Lana, thanks.